Barrett. I'm going to be chairing the meeting this evening because our chair and vice chair are remote. Our first item on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Andrea this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. 7:02 agenda item. We have open forum. Is there anybody here who wishes to address the board in open forum?
Hi, Megan O'Connell, 44 South Chelmsford Road, but you probably all know that by now. First, I just want to thank the board and the entire town for a very well-run town meeting last night. Regardless of what side you wanted to win on each article, it was very, very well-run, so thank you for that. The second thing I want to talk about is one I've spoken about before, and that's the Citizen Activity Forum, or Resident Activity Forum if we've changed that name. I know I've mentioned it a few times. I've written some letters to a number of you, the whole board at times. I do want to voice my concern about the Capital Committee. As you are all aware, for some time there were at least one open seat listed as a resident at-large seat, and several residents had submitted interest in that, only to discover after the fact that one of the board members was appointed to that years back and still holds that as a resident at large. There are a number of residents that are not happy about that and feel that a resident at large should be someone that's not an elected official. To that end, I want to be transparent. There's a Facebook group called Westford Common Ground, which I actually started, but there's 380 plus residents on there right now. And there is a poll on there, again, transparent, I put the poll up. But right now we're running at 67% believe that a resident at large seat should not be held by either no member of any other board or commission or not an elected member. So again, I just want to put that on record and suggest strongly that a resident at large seat should not be held by an elected official. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate your comments. Follow-up?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, do you have a follow-up?
Oh, no. That was
okay.
I thought you...
Sorry, I was clearing my throat. My apologies.
Sorry.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Anybody else for open forum?
John.
Oh, sorry, on this topic, do you want to respond to?
No.
Okay.
We can go ahead, but I'd like to say something
Sure.
before you get done.
Absolutely. Come ahead. Come right ahead, please.
Hi, good evening. Sarah Kazari, Two Doors Road. I believe you guys got an abundance of information from me a couple weeks ago when I came here because I wasn't sure how this whole meeting worked. I'm actually not even sure how much time I have or what I can say because I'm a little nervous.
Sure. I would say be brief because we are aware of your situation.
Yes.
So, I don't think you have to rehash a lot of the background, but
Yes.
feel free to explain why you're here this evening.
Okay. So, I guess part of my issue was we had an issue with the paving. There were issues from the very beginning. And part of the problem is that any issue that we brought up to the highway department or up to the town, we feel like everything was just either pushed aside, ignored, or it was fought every step of the way rather than someone trying to help us address the issue. We have a width of our road which was significantly narrowed. This started back at the beginning when they were first grading. There was lots of issues. They tried to make the road like literally 8 inches higher than my driveway, which they came back and fixed, which was fine. Now the road is significantly narrower. I gave you pictures. I actually have more pictures with lines on them now, but it's only in front of our house. There was only the issue in front of our house. Nowhere else on the road was it an issue. We asked for information on what the road was supposed to be, what the original measurements were. We were told they were put back to original measurements, but there wasn't actually original measurements. The information that we got was from like 1940 something, when the town took over the road, so I don't know where the measurements of the road came from besides thin air in front of our home. Another issue that's huge is glass in our soil. All the dirt that they call loam or topsoil, which literally is filled with glass, filled with rocks, tan in color, like they said they sent someone around, pick up the glass, someone took the glass off the top. It didn't address the issue that if there's giant shards of glass on the top of the soil, they're most likely throughout the soil. They came back, they compacted the soil, they put other dirt on top of it, which was still full of pebbles, a little bit better, but still basically fill with little shards of glass that I saw. And then I said, are we going to address this? No, we're not going to address this. It was done, it's over, we're coming, we're hydro-seeding, we're moving on. So that was, apparently having glass in the soil in everyone's front yards was not an issue. At the end of the road, they filled it up, not an issue. The other thing is my front yard's in the road now, which now I have drainage issues, which I brought up when Kristen actually came out to my house. Paul, I forget his last name,
Stark.
the engineer, and Kyle, the DPW director. They all came out. No one said there was an issue. No one said there's anything they can do. They're moving forward with whatever they were doing. They cut out the base coat. They filled it in with whatever dirt, which we then took out because we asked the town to come back and take it out. The town refused, wouldn't even respond to us, just moving forward, hydro-seeding. My husband took out all the dirt, put in actual loam, seeded it, and now the last few rainstorms we've had, I now have my front yard washed down the end of the street. The dirt we put in, which I have pictures, being washed away down to 2 inches down and not draining properly. And the other thing is the end of the road. We brought up many times that we get a lot of water down our road, which is not uncommon for dead ends in Westford. We live on a small little dead end. The water, because they made the dirt higher than the actual surface of the road, now has nowhere to go. So it's pooling in my front yard or pooling in the corner of the road. The dirt used to go downhill, go into the golf course and flow away, but now it just stays stagnant. That actually covered 3 feet of the side of the road. There was water sitting on the side of the road. Kyle, I sent an email to. He got back to me and said that he went by, he saw no issue, everything was doing what it was supposed to do and what he thought and expected. And I was like, well, you expected my yard to be a muddy mess and a pool of water, and the end of the road be a pool of water. And the other issue is the end of the road is right away for the Nabnescent Lake Country Club. They bring big trucks back and forth to do work on the golf course. Now it's just a pile of, they never packed it down, so it's loose soil, muddy, loose soil, which is the same soil that was all the glass. They never came and compacted it. They didn't put in any of the dirt. So we have a drainage issue very badly. And my husband just wanted me to say, I said, ideally, myself and my husband would have loved to not be involved in this project. We would have loved for everything to go smoothly and have a beautiful newly paved road that we've needed for many years. My husband's thoughts are, there was not proper oversight throughout the entire project. Newport potentially went rogue, and there was incompetence throughout the entire process. And this is not an outcome that our neighborhood, or our town for that matter, could be proud of.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your comments. Do you have a question?
No?
Who was responsible for doing this? Was this a Newport project?
It was a Newport project overseen by the Westford DPW department.
Okay. I think clearly, these folks are, upset. We've seen pictures. It's not our practice to respond to something in open forum because it hasn't been on the agenda, so we can't really, respond to you or do anything. So I just want you to know that, okay?
No, that's fine, because I don't know how it works, so I appreciate that.
I think we need to schedule something before this board with Newport, Kyle, yourself, and figure out what's gone on here, what's happened, and if they have a drainage problem because of what Newport did or how they graded the road, then Newport needs to fix that.
I will review it with Kyle tomorrow. He and I have been out there. I haven't been out there since the seating, but I'll get some more information from Kyle.
John, do you have a comment?
Well, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, please.
You've given us a good outline of the problem, and I've looked at the photographs and everything else. I haven't been out to the site, I have to admit. But going forward, it might be interesting if you would define what you would like the result to be.
As in now or later.
Well, no.
Well, how do we
I
fix
mean-
it?
How do we
I
fix
mean,
it is what
you know,
we're at. Yeah. What do you want?
What would
That's a
be,
good question.
what would be the result?
The result would be to put the road back to the width it was, which I was told is absolutely not happening, because that's not happening, because that's what they did by Kyle. And I want the road to be back with my neighbor across from me. You know, a foot of his property is now in the road, and mine, it goes at an angle, but I want it back to where it was. I want the road to be graded down. I want the end of the road where all the dirt is piled up in a disaster to be graded down and have the water flow like it used to. I know it won't be perfect. It wasn't perfect before, but at least I didn't have I have new issues. I didn't have the issues that I have now. And without pictures, I know I don't want to bombard you with pictures, but I can't prove anything.
Certainly feel free to share the pictures with us. That's always helpful if you'd like. I think you've heard from the board that we're interested in doing a little bit more about this, but it is open forum. It's not on our agenda.
Yeah.
So we will take the necessary steps to put it on a future agenda. Obviously include you in that discussion. To John's point, I think you should be very crisp in what you're looking to have done to make
Yes.
things right. And then we can have a discussion with the relevant parties and make sure we can get you to that state.
Or as close to it
As
as
close to it as
possible.
possible.
Yeah, all right.
That's why I didn't know if there was actually a way to fix it, because I was told it is how it is. But I figured I would just keep bringing it up until someone listened to me, because I wasn't going anywhere. I don't want to throw you under the bus, but I wasn't going anywhere. No matter who I talked to, I just got pushed aside. So it was like, this is what we're doing. Your input is great, but it doesn't matter, and we're doing what we're doing. So that's where I'm left.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your patience with me.
No, you're very welcome. All right, we're on to our announcements. Seeing as we've-
John has something.
Oh, sorry, John, you're right. You have an
Well, you
announcement.
got, okay. Well, I just wanted to recognize that Tom Mahana is no longer the chair of the Permanent Town Building Committee. He resigned that position. He's no longer on the Capital Planning Committee. And Tom's been on those various committees, those two particularly, since they were formed, practically. And he's been the chair, and he's overseen some really significant projects for the town. And that's probably one of the Permanent Town Building Committee is probably one of the hardest working committees that you'll find as far as committees are, except in the select board, of course. But I just wanted the board to recognize Tom Mahana for his outstanding work for the town that he's done over the last 15 to 20 years in those capacities. And I think we ought to recognize him for that. I don't know what form we would use, but
I think we can talk about it and put it on a later agenda.
yeah. But I think,
Talk to you.
okay. Okay.
Thank you. That was
Yeah.
a great comment. Appreciate it. All right. Anybody else have anything from the board? Andrea, Tom? Nope. Okay. So we have the Tri-Board Efficiencies meeting on November 7th at 7 p.m. at Millennium. You'll be able to attend that via Zoom if you so choose. We also have the Town of Westford's Veterans Day ceremony, which will be held on November 11th on the Town Common at 11 a.m. And we have the solid waste survey and sustainability surveys available for residents to take, and they can get to them how?
So they can visit our website, westfordma.gov, and they're on the homepage there.
If you're the first-time visitor, it will actually pop up,
It'll
I
pop
think,
up,
and,
yeah.
and give you an option. Great surveys, by the way. I've taken both of them, and I appreciate the thought and depth that you guys went into designing those. Hopefully, we're getting some great data there. Any other announcements or
I have one other thing.
Yes, please.
So just want to let members of the public know that early voting is continuing this week, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Millennium School. It'll continue on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then all next week, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then voting will be obviously occurring on November 5th at your normal precinct, either Westford Academy or the Stony Brook School. And if you have a question about where your precinct is for that day, if you want to vote on the actual election day, feel free to reach out to the town clerk's office. They are working triple time. They had a town meeting last night, early voting, election, so please thank them and be kind to them when you see them. And lots of volunteers helping with them as well, so we want to thank those volunteers.
Yeah, especially all the volunteers at town meeting last night as well, right? I mean, amazing event, so, okay. All right, we're on to our consent agenda, our 7:05 consent agenda. We have the request to approve the following. We have a Veterans Day ceremony. Terry, our Veteran Services Officer, is here. That's for Monday, November 11th, from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the ceremony, again, will start at 11 a.m. Terry, would you like to address the board?
Yes, hi, Terry Stater, Westford Veteran Service, also resident 280 Colony Drive. I just wanted to add to that is that part of that is Westford Remembers would like, again, the permission to put the veterans, thank you veterans signs around this year as well. We had previously asked for it in advance, but I wanted to remind everybody that the select board okayed it several meetings ago, but I just wanted to remember that we were doing that as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Great. Any questions for Terry or on that? No? Okay, thank you, Terry, appreciate it. Do we want to take these one at a time or both? Both, okay. Second one is the nativity display. The applicant is Kelly Olson, and that is running from November 28th to December 31st.
So I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? All right.
You have to poll. You have to
Yes,
poll us.
yes, I'll get that. Yep, so we have, any discussion on the motion? No? Since we do have a remote member, we're gonna go by name, we'll roll call it. So Tom?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. The motion passes unanimously. All right. We're on to our 7:07 meeting item, which is a review special town meeting of 2024.
Great, so just wanted to put this on the agenda, knowing that we had town meeting last evening and wanting to just congratulate the town for a well-run meeting, congratulate all the volunteers and the staff. We had 10 articles on the warrant finished last evening. There were 666 registered voters. We did plan for over 2,700 registered voters. We all fit in the gymnasium last night, but special thanks to the facilities department for setting up the 3 other rooms. Also want to thank 2 other towns that loaned us their clickers. We'll get thank you notes out to them as well. Sudbury, and the other name is going to escape me, so I don't want to say it incorrectly on the meeting this evening. And just take any feedback from the board if there's anything that you'd like different or changed. I did have a chance to speak with the moderator in person today, and she and I just debriefed on a few things, but we're gearing up for the March annual town meeting. So.
Great. Any comments?
That went well.
I just want to, for everybody else, I want to say thank you to you, Kristen, because you led the team. You and our moderator, led the team, made sure that everything was in place. And yes, we didn't have 2,700 people, but we were totally prepared for 2,700 people. And, we're now prepared should we have a town meeting in the future with that many folks. So kudos to you, to the moderator, to our town clerk, who also, facilitated everything, to all of our volunteers, to WestfordCAT, to everybody who was involved in setting up and wiring. And I know that this was a months, plural, months-long project throughout the summer. So thank you and congratulations to everybody. It all worked terrifically well and very smoothly.
We'll pass that along to the team.
Yeah, excellent job.
Tom, any comments you want to add?
Yeah, I just would echo the comments, and I know some folks that were in one of the auxiliary spaces were a little bit disappointed that they went to all that work to prepare and weren't able to use it. I want them to feel amazing for the fact that we're ready for any contingency, and I think Westford is gone from a surprising surge a year ago to being able to teach a master class and how to run a complicated high attendance town meeting. So again, just echoing congratulations to the team.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said before, although I really wanted to see all 4 rooms in action. I think that would have been really, really cool. So maybe in the future we'll be able to do a dry run like we can attend, the select board can attend and see how it all works, right?
Yep.
And I think probably the only thing that I don't know if this is something that we can address, I don't know if this is a town moderator issue, but when we had people who wanted to make amendments to the motions, that seemed to get bogged down a little bit, and I don't know how we make that better. If it's an education thing to have folks, make sure that they write down their amendments prior to coming to town meeting, or provide a better functionality for them to type them in and get them on the screen. That would be my only little change that I think would be as a possible improvement for the future. Other than that, I thought it was excellent. And, I don't recall a town meeting, special town meeting, it's a pretty sizable one for a special town meeting, 600 plus people. I mean, that's not bad. So it was really good. All right, any other comments on that topic? Great. All right, we'll move on to our 7:15 agenda item, which is the American Rescue Plan Act funding request. And we have a number of requests this evening. The first one being consultant to develop communications plan and to offer communication support, including crisis communication, for a 1-year period in the amount of $65,000. That's coming from the town manager's office. So Kristen, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, and before I do, I just want to give the board our traditional overview of where we're at in ARPA, and for the members of the public as well. So our current ARPA balance is $367,728.48. At your last meeting, the board allocated $20,000 to repair the fiber optic cable and $177,000 to pay for our Microsoft Office subscription for over the next 3 years. We do anticipate the balance increasing slightly over the next month. We are working very closely with departments on closeouts. I actually reviewed that spreadsheet with our finance director yesterday, and we know that we are obligated to have contracts in place by December 31st of 2024. In fiscal '24, your board authorized 8 projects totaling $197,446. So far in fiscal '25, your board has authorized 7 projects totaling $304,371. This evening, we're requesting a total of $85,000, one being the communication consultant and planning effort, as well as $20,000 for assistance with the private PFAS well testing. I also want to give the board a preview that we do plan to come forward at your first meeting in November with kind of our final, and I know I keep saying final, right? So we're right into the last bit. This past week, we received a proposal from an audiovisual firm, which we would like to wire up this room to be better at our virtual and hybrid communication, no longer using an owl, but using the cameras in all 4 spots that link into WCAT. WCAT has been involved in this process, replacing the projector with a laser projector that will last much longer, having much better audio, so no longer having these microphones, but just one central microphone that gets all zones and also links into the video feed for both our Zoom type of meetings as well as WCAT. Changing out these 2 televisions to be better televisions so you can see on either side. Changing out the television on the outside and having audio outside for people waiting in the hall, and then also wiring up the small conference room with switching over that television to that room, having video feed and audio feed over there as well, so that could be used. We're seeing about an estimate of, I think, about $90,000 at this point in time.
It's about 78. It will probably go up based on the
Maybe
meeting today.
Up to 90. So that's one of the items that we just wanted to with you this evening, where we will answer your questions on that. The other thing we're seeing is that the Cameron Senior Center projects that has been authorized likely are not going to be going forward, but there are a number of weatherization projects that Mike Edwards and Jeff Goodwin are working on that will likely bring back to you. And then there's those projects that have come to you and you said, let's put those on hold. So the police vehicle, fire apparatus, health insurance, and all of those. So this evening before you is, again, the ask for a consultant service through a request for proposal process to go out to develop a communications plan for the town of Westford. We have seen through our strategic planning work and other work that we've done that people want more communication from the town. So having that cohesive plan in place, and then for that consulting firm to provide us with those services for 1 year, because we do not have a staff person to do that. So I'll stop there and pause. If there's any questions, then I can move forward to the PFAS well testing.
I had one question. I was a bit confused. In our packets were two proposals, one for the town of Hanson, so I understand that you were just, but the other one was for the town of Westford, and I guess
Correct.
I'm confused. Have we gone out for an RFP yet?
No, we have
Okay,
not.
so how did that come to be a proposal for the town of Westford
Sure.
from that group?
Yep, so I had phone conversations with those two consulting firms, and we talked about some of the things that we would like, and they, on their own, sent us a proposal of what that could look like. So we anticipate that taking the Hanson proposal from CSS, taking the Pierce proposal, kind of melding that into what we see as a vision for Westford, and then going back out for a request for proposal.
Okay.
So I apologize that that wasn't clear in the memo.
John?
I had a little trouble wrapping my arms around a scope for this thing. You know, what are we actually asking them to do? Now, this is supposed to help us with our strategic plan. Aren't we getting a little ahead of that, perhaps? I mean, this is getting specific on something that we're going to be still talking about in our strategic plan. And a lot of this seems to be, it's a PR thing, public relations. And I'm concerned about getting involved in trying to promote what we're doing instead of just explaining what we're doing, and getting it more towards a look at us, look at what we're doing type thing. And then just how we manage the social media would be a concern when we start using it in different ways. And so I'd be interested in see what the scope of this work is, and just you know, kind of how it fits. I have a little concerns along those avenues.
So the scope is not specifically to address our strategic plan PR. It's really to understand how the town of Westford communicates and how we should communicate going forward. So now it's very decentralized. The police department could put out their own press release, or the town manager's office could put out their own press release, or the town clerk's office could do some sort of media. Right now it's very haphazard, occurs at different intervals, is not planned, is not reviewed by all aspects. So what this is to build what the town of Westford's communication plan is moving forward to address anything that goes on to the town, whether it be town meeting, early voting, an incident that occurs that we don't have control over, those types of things. And then for this consultant to do those tasks while we do not have a staff person in place.
Okay, well, I need a clear understanding. At least I would like to have a clear understanding of what that scope really is and kind of the nature of this communication. Because one of these firms is obviously a good PR firm, and they talk very heavily about public relations. And there are aspects of public relations, some of it might go towards almost propaganda, but just towards the actual functioning of the government, then that may be more, that'd be appropriate in my view.
Yeah, it's
So-
more of the function of the government or addressing any issues, but we can talk about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that if possible before we,
Well, we always see the RFP before it goes out.
okay.
We're supposed to see the RFP before it goes out.
In many instances, yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it so I have time to look at it. Yeah, okay.
Tom also has his hand up, but I know Andrew.
So is that your question?
Yeah,
to
that's
this?
it,
Okay.
yeah.
Tom, you have a question, thoughts?
Yeah, two thoughts on this. One is, so I'm all for figuring out how to do better engagement. I think we heard that last night at the town meeting too. Are there new and better ways we can be engaging with the public for information exchange? So I would love it if this RFP had some sort of best practice aspect to it, like what are the best towns in the Commonwealth doing in terms of engagement and how do they measure it? And then also, I'm wondering about the time frame. I know that the RFP hasn't been put together, but does ARPA let us commit funds? Is there an end date on when the services have to be complete?
Yes, December of 2026.
Okay, I guess I would ask that the work period be extended as far as possible, because I know we're in a multi-year budget situation, and as we walk through this budget process, there may be a lot of communication to be done both this cycle and next cycle. So I understand if there's like a rule-based end to it, we can't go beyond that with this money, but I would spread out the timing with an understanding that we probably are going to have a lot of communication in this budget cycle, and then also a lot of communication and engagement in the next budget cycle too.
I would then, if you were going to extend it, respectfully ask for additional funds, because this is funding a 1 year, so.
And if between the time of getting an RFP together, getting an RFP out, getting the responses back, and looking at it, you'll never get that done before we have to start communicating about this year's budget. I
Well,
mean,
we need to be under contract by December 31st.
Right.
Has to be
So-
quick.
Right, but I guess, I mean, I suppose if you're not gonna hit both, I guess, if you engage them in February to sort of help us with this budget, and it's a year, then you're at the end is February 2026 which is when you're just starting the next budget
Right,
cycle.
yeah.
So I'm not sure you'll be able to cover both, Tom, is what I'm saying.
But I mean,
Well, I just, with respect, I do think that
Although we'll have learned something.
teeing up into next year's budget cycle, I mean, if you imagine where we'll be at the end of the year, we'll have made major determinations next cycle about how we want to engage with the public and what we're intending to do. So in any case, there is a limit, I understand that. I just want to make sure we're getting full use as much as we can during the time that we can spend the money.
Right, and we'll have learned, I mean, even if the year ends, I mean, we will have learned something from this year that we can do, you know, for the following year in the following budget cycle. But I also want, just for the audience who's watching, it's not just about communication about the budget.
Right,
No.
right.
Okay, I just want people to understand that, is that this is sort of a town-wide, you know, communications and how we do better. And while I agree we want to be able to communicate and hear from the community, and I also agree this is not, you know, a mechanism for us to publicize how great we are and all the good work we do, but I also think it is a mechanism where we do get out to the public what we are doing and why we are doing
Yep.
it. So there is a promotional quality
Right.
that is part of this.
Well, excuse me, just one more thing.
yes, go right ahead.
Well, the funds have to be expended by the end of 26.
2026,
correct.
Right, okay. Just a
Yeah.
question.
But I'm sorry, to that point, does that mean that if we engage them next year, can we structure the contract for 18 months and you pay them in advance so the money's already been?
Well, the money's obligated, right?
So we need to enter into a contract by December 31st, 2024.
Yep.
We need to spend the money by December of 2026.
But you could
So we don't pay for the services that we don't receive. So we would,
can't advance money?
we can't advance money.
No, it's,
Correct.
yeah.
But again, if you paid for it, I mean, could the contract be longer than that, the deadline in which we have to spend the money by?
No,
It has to be, so we're tied to an end date of,
December of 2026.
December of 2026, yeah.
And I know the board's tradition and practice has been to review the RFPs before they go out. Your next meeting is not until November 12th, which puts us on an extremely tight deadline. So if there's any flexibility of working with maybe 2 board members to get the RFP out in advance, I would respectfully ask for that. If you're not comfortable with that, I understand, and we'll do our best to shorten the timeline up.
Or you can get it out to us, we can review it, and we can hold a special meeting for that purpose,
Okay.
actually. Which I think the board would be more comfortable doing
Okay.
that.
you're thinking like a Friday Zoom meeting type of situation?
Yeah,
I could work with that. I think that's fine.
or whatever day is convenient for everybody.
Yes, but I do think we do, I am really invested in seeing this move forward. I think it's a great opportunity for us to better engage our community, because I have a feeling we're just not getting the message out to the community as a whole. And if this group can help us with that, it's worth all the money in the world to me personally, because I think if we have a better engaged, base of residents, we end up with better decision making and more satisfaction. And I think what I took away from the information that was presented so far is not only are they going to help us maybe reach a better audience, but we'll be more effective in determining that. So there's some analytic components. So they're going to be looking at effectiveness of messaging, how many people are seeing these messages. Today we think we throw things out, but we don't have the time to go back and say, how many people actually saw this message? And to me, that's wasteful, right? It's much better to be efficient and know that we're targeting in effective and efficient manners than to just blast and hope that people are getting the message, right? So I think this is great, and I appreciate, Kristen, your effort in getting this put together in a short period of time. And I think we'll all do our best to try and support moving it forward as quickly as possible.
Could I get a sense of the board if you would like us to extend this for a 2-year period, so I could get an estimate for your next special meeting where you review the RFP, and maybe we up the dollar amount?
Sure. I mean, it's worth, I think it's worth asking. I mean, if we look at it and say, hey, that just isn't gonna fit in the budget, then we cut it back to a year, but at least we know what the, what the amount might be. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely worth the ask.
Yep, I agree.
John, did you have?
Well, okay. I was just concerned about, we have to obligate the funds.
Mhm.
So if we have a higher amount, that's what we're gonna do.
No, you obligate the funds for a year, and if the
Yeah.
next year we have to pay for it, at least we know what that amount is, and we can figure out whether it can fit in our budget or not.
Okay, that, I misunderstood. So I was saying, should I estimate another year for you to allocate ARPA funds for, or would you like to allocate it in the budget?
But how can we do that if you have to?
If the contract is December 31st, 2024 through December 31st, 2026, that gives me a 2-year window for this consulting services.
Oh, I see. I misunderstood what you were saying.
I misunderstood what you were saying, so I think we're on the same page
now. We're on
now.
the same page.
I don't know, are we? I'm not sure we are. So we do 1 year with ARPA funds and then another year with some other funds.
So that's the question before your
That was what
board.
I thought she was saying. But
Okay.
what she's saying is that we enter into the contract on December 31st for a 2-year period,
Paid through ARPA.
paid
or-
through ARPA through December 31st, 2026.
Okay.
So we could it likely would be another $45,000 to $50,000 on top of the $65,000.
So we throw it into the pot of all the ARPA things
Yep.
we're considering,
I got it now.
spending our $367,000.
Yes.
Okay.
That was gonna be my point. Put it together with the other requirements and
Sure.
see where
Yeah,
sure.
it sorts itself out, because, some of this, we have our brand-new website's really fine. I think that's a good communication tool. And if the information, people that want the information, they can get it, they can find it. So now we're going to get into a mode of pushing information to them to make sure they got it, and say, oh, by the way, you didn't hear me the first time.
Right.
Let's try it again. And I just,
Well, I think
I'm
the
totally
big
comfortable with that.
difference there, though, John, is that they're not getting it the first time. There is no, you're assuming that people know what we're talking about. You're assuming they're going to the town website and trolling through it to find the information. That is, in my opinion, that's not happening. So this is first time engagement, right, in many cases.
I'm just worried about, okay,
Yeah. No, I hear you.
overdoing it. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we're getting experts to
And
help
how
us not
well,
overdo it.
And then how important is it? I mean, when you really get down to it, what's that going to do for us?
Well, I think our residents have told us
Over
that
and
it's
over again,
over
huh?
and again, that it's important and that they feel like we're not communicating well with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have direction.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I just.
No, I'm glad we worked it out, because we would have left the meeting with two different
Clearly
ideas.
Discussion
on a
we
different
need to
page
have.
there.
And you'll be coming back with, I think, not just the, see, I wonder though, if you're going to come back with a 1 and a 2 year quote.
Well,
Right.
my 1-year estimate is plus the communications
So we'll keep
plan,
that.
$65,000. I believe that a 2-year would be an additional $45,000 to $50,000 based upon my research.
Mm-hmm.
We will need to make that decision before the RFP gets issued, because that's an important component in the RFP.
Right.
We could also do an ad alternate to the RFP.
That's what I was sort of
That's where I was going.
thinking.
Sure.
That we do it that way.
Sure.
I just wouldn't want you to come back and say, we're going for 2, and then we find out we can't fund
Fund
it
it,
because
sure.
of all these
Yeah, we
other
can do an
things.
ad alternate
So we
for
have
two.
at least another option
Yep,
there.
we can do that.
I'd suggest we check with council as far as an ad alternate, depending upon when you execute that ad alternate. whether
Well,
or
we
not-
would execute it upon December 31st, 2024. But the ad alternate would give you the November 12th meeting to see all your other ARPA asks. We would probably get the RFP back to review those right before Thanksgiving, and then execute the contract at your December meeting.
So one other question.
Sure.
Is this going to be a unit price, not to exceed contract?
A union price?
Unit
Price.
price.
It depends how we structure it. So some are not to exceed, some are based upon what you're asking them to do. So, but we would only have the certain amount of dollars, so we would not sign a contract for any more than that dollar.
And kind of the way I looked at some of these contracts, it's almost like they were along that line. You paid for certain activities, you know, it had to do with the network, it had to do, you know, different prices, and then a not to exceed number. Okay.
All right. Do we have any
Are we
questions
good?
on the PFAS testing? Are we taking these one at a time? Because we kind of talked about both.
Not a question, a comment.
Sure.
From our health, from Ray Dick, in her communication to us under the PFAS education, her last bullet was all applicants, and she's talking about applicants for the test kits,
Yep.
will receive an informational PFAS packet from our department. Information will include current state and federal guidelines for remediation and treatment. I'm wondering if there's a way, and this sort of jives with what we were just talking about. I mean, this is really important information for everybody in the town. So I'm wondering if there's a way to get this information out to everybody in the town as opposed to just the people, just the 50 people who are picking up applications. So if you could take, I don't know if Ray's on.
I did
She's
just
on,
promote her,
she's-
yes.
Oh,
She's on.
Oh,
Ray's here.
okay. Hi, Ray.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good. Did you hear my comment?
I did. So just so that you're aware, all of that information is already on our website. But as you had just mentioned a few minutes ago, it's not something the first thing they think to go to is the town's website or even the health department's website for this information. So we do take the time to make sure that we also, if they're a participant of the program, that we send them a packet via email so they also have this information. And then we also do let them know about the water department and the health department's websites, that those are updated quite frequently, actually, with the latest on PFAS.
I mean, maybe Kristen, in your newsletter next month,
Sure.
you could put a plug in for that.
Sure.
Just so folks know. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ray,
Yep.
we'll work together on that.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Ray.
Mr. Chair, I got a
Yes,
question.
John.
Please.
We just did 50, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is an additional 50. Are we going to
Yes.
scatter them out around the area of the town in certain precincts, the way we did the first 50?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Great question. Tom, any comments? Questions?
This is good.
All set.
All set. Okay. Do you guys want to take these separately or together? What's the will of the board?
Well, let's do them together. Well,
You can decide on the communications when we have our special meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll
So
just
just
take item
PFAS.
B, the PFAS testing for 50 residential wells. We have a motion to,
so moved.
Second?
thank you. We'll do a roll call. Andrea?
Yes?
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I am also an aye, so the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
All right, we have a 7:25 agenda item, discussion on the demolition delay process. We don't seem to have anybody here to speak to that, so anybody on Zoom or
I
anything
don't
like
see
that?
anyone on Zoom. for
Okay.
that, No.
All right, then why don't we move on to our 7:40 agenda item, which is review and act on the Parish Center for the Arts Community Preservation Grant Agreement Amendment. How about that for a mouthful? Go. Who's up?
Mike.
Mike.
So this is an amendment to the original grant agreement that we had with CPA funds awarded through approval with the CPC for the PCA.
Should we spell some of those acronyms out for the
No,
viewing
so the
public?
Paris Center for the Arts had applied a number of years ago for funding for restoration of the bell tower. Well, not the bell tower initially, it was some siding work and some other work, window restoration. Part of that was figuring out what they wanted to do with the bell tower. They came back for a second application to the CPC for restoration of the bell tower. They needed to do an amendment to the first grant agreement to pick up that additional $163,000. So that is what this is before you right now.
Has town council reviewed the amendment?
Yes, they actually wrote it.
Oh, okay.
Does the Community Preservation Commission need to weigh in on this?
They already did. They recommended this. This is really just a technicality to allow us to award them the funds.
Okay.
Because the original $100,000 was done through a grant agreement. We just need to amend it to tack on the second award.
All right. Any questions from the board? Tom, any questions from you, sir?
I move to approve the amendment.
Second?
All right. We'll do a roll call for this. Andrea?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. So we're a little early. Can we take the 7:55 item?
We can if you wish. It's a meeting. If you want to do the town manager's report and wait until 7:55, we could also do that. It's up to your board.
You guys want to do the town manager stuff beforehand?
Sure. Well,
We also have
I know-
Mike Wells and Bob Rafferty of the CAC on Zoom.
It's just if anybody else is out there thinking that this is going to start at 7:55 and we start 10 minutes early,
okay,
that might
that's fine.
make people a little upset. So I think we could fit the town manager's report in at times. What do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I will be brief.
All right. Well, you have actually 9 minutes, so you
All
don't
right.
have to be super brief.
Great. So the first item is to request a pilot program from the select board to alter the town hall hours beginning January 6th of 2025. I've had conversations with many staff members, department heads, you as board members, other members of the public, that the town of Westford's town hall hours currently are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. That does not allow for residents who work a normal 9 to 5 job to access to access town hall, whether it be coming in person or making phone calls after normal business hours. So we would like to recommend that the town hall be open Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., and Friday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. In your packet materials, I provided the hours of town halls or town offices in our adjoining communities, as well as our comparable communities, as we looked at from the budget task force. And you'll see from that, we're actually the only municipality that does not hold evening hours or does not close early on Friday. I'm proposing this as a pilot in order to give our employees an opportunity to log how many people are actually coming in and using the evening hours on Tuesdays, whether they come and get birth or marriage certificates, visit the building inspector's office for permitting or health department, come to the assessor's office, or pay their bill at the treasurer collector's office. We'd also certainly track if there's voicemails at the end of the day on Friday of people trying to get into the building or access services. At this point in time, I'm not requesting any changes to the Cameron Senior Center. They already offer evening hours 1 evening a week and do have the staffing to stay open Monday through Friday till 4 p.m. The DPW is currently going to continue their normal hours, but we're in discussions of potentially changing those. And the Recreation Department is going to continue staying open until 4 p.m. because they do run the after-school childcare program and the summer camps in the summer. Obviously, the Board of Library Trustees has the authority over the library hours, and those are not changing at this point in time. So with the board's approval, we'd be asking for those hours to start again January 6th of 2025 and reporting back over the period of that 6 months to determine what's the next course of, or best course of action.
Any questions?
I just had a
Yes.
question. This kind of a summary, you add 2.5 hours on Tuesday, and you take off 3 hours on Friday. And does that, and then you go through dinner time on Tuesdays. Any adjustments made for that?
Sure. So right now, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, our staff has a half-hour lunch.
Right.
We'd continue to keep the half-hour lunch Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, they would not have a lunch. It would be 8 to 1 without a lunch break. So that's where you make up that half hour.
Okay. And there's no dinner break on Tuesdays?
Correct.
Right. They work straight through to 6:30?
Right. If, you know, they could have their 15-minute break and
Oh.
get up and move around. Yes.
Thank you.
I will move to approve the pilot program.
I'll second that.
Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Andrea?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Thank you for putting this proposal together.
Thank you.
And, you know, as we go forward, keeping talking about communication, hopefully we can figure out a way to get these new hours out to the general public so they know about
Our
them,
best.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it won't be good to have people here until 6:30 if nobody knows the town hall's open until then.
Correct.
Or to have people coming in at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon if nobody knows that it's
That
closed.
could be a little bit of a problem too. Absolutely. Oh,
I'm sorry.
hello. All right, I think we're on to purchase orders.
Yes, so I'll go through all of them. If you have any questions, we can back up. Purchase order for All Sports Heroes for bulletproof vests in the amount of $15,540 as requested by the police department. Eastern Salt for road salt under the statewide contract VEH 119 in the amount of $73.50 per ton for the 24-25 winter season as requested by the Public Works Department. And then the last you did see before, the Beta Group for Sidewalk Assessment Program Services in the amount of $48,500. The DPW director was able to meet with the Pedestrian Safety Committee, and they voted, I believe, 3-0-1 in favor of moving forward with this purchase order.
Any questions? Tom? Nope. Okay. Nope.
Fine.
I'll move to
Oh,
approve.
what's that?
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second?
Second?
All right, thank you, John, for seconding. Any debate on the motion? Nope, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Andrea?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Motion passes unanimously. Can we do contracts?
Absolutely.
All right, let's
Yes.
do contracts.
Great. So the first contract would be to extend the Zen City contract for the community engagement platform in the amount of $12,000 as requested by the town manager's office. As you know, we've been using that platform for almost a year now. I'm requesting to cut back to just use the Project Engage, which is the survey and the project page. We haven't gotten as much use out of the organic module or the other module that we've been using. That would be paid out of the ARPA funds associated with the strategic plan. And then Weston and Sampson for PFAS testing and third-party monitoring in the amount of $29,700 by the town manager's office. Weston and Sampson currently provides our landfill monitoring. However, we found out that this year that they have requested that the town do third-party monitoring for quite some time. It's actually a DEP requirement, and we had not been doing that, so we wanted to build that in. And we also received a letter from DEP that they're now requiring us to test wells in a certain radius from the landfill for PFAS as well. And this will be coming out of the solid waste account.
Correct.
And we do have budget for that.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
All right, any debate on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Andrea?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I think you can go back to the 7:55.
I think we're close enough. Let's do it. Come on up, sir. All right, our 7:55 agenda item is a joint meeting with the Communication Advisory Committee to review and act on the Verizon cable TV contract. Would you care to introduce yourself, sir, and maybe call your meeting to order? Do you have people here?
Mike Wells, I'm the IT director, but I'm also the secretary of the Communications Advisory Committee, and our chairman is not here this evening, to my surprise.
He's here.
Oh, here, Bob is here.
Oh, he's physically there.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to make sure we continued our tradition of never actually physically meeting.
Oh, I saw you in the front row last night. I saw you there.
So, yes.
Okay,
What I do notice is that Bill Hewig, the lawyer who was worked with us on this, who was on the call earlier on, he must have jumped on when we were doing a subsequent item and thought he'd missed it because he's gone again.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there he is again. He just came back. We'll promote him.
Okay.
all right, so I guess, call to order for the Communications Advisory Committee. I liked your previous item about hiring a consultant because it was one of the things we really wanted to see happen. We worked a long time with, shall I say, recalcitrant contractor in Verizon, and we got what I believe is the best contract we could get out of them, which included upfront money in the first 2 years to help out with if WCAT has to move and their lease is up, then how do we actually finance everything that had to be there? So that's one part of it. There's a minor increase in revenue that's really truly minor because we keep losing subscribers, so the overall amount is actually lower. And I'm going to give it over to Bill Hewig, who's going to describe what's in the contract that you have. There was a last-minute amendment that was really minor, but I think you've got the entire contract that Verizon is willing to sign. And we do recommend. We're not-
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
that is kind of the bottom line. You buried the lead, Bob.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Am I connected?
Yep.
You are.
Thank you. I've been working with your Communications Advisory Committee for some time, and then we've got another one down the pike too in 2025 with Comcast. And it's unfortunate that they occur in that order because Verizon is a Me Too license, and they're only willing to give us really what we already have with the other cable operators. So if we had done Comcast, if we had been able to do Comcast first and get more, we might have got more out of Verizon. But be that as it may, what we did get is we continue to get our 5% gross annual revenues, and we get $120,000 in 3 payments of $40,000. The first one of which is 60 days, and then we get the other 2 in years 1 and 2. So we'll get $120,000 over 5 years, and we'll get 5% gross annual revenues. And Verizon's subscriber count is, I think, larger than Comcast. So that's a fairly substantial amount of money of annual revenue, but it's the same as we get under the current license. 5% is the highest you can get under federal law. I have provided an executive summary, which I gave to the CAC chair, and
They should be in the packet. They should be in the packet.
It is.
It is.
yeah. So it may make sense for me just to run through that quickly. I'll highlight some of the main things that are part of this license, and I will say this: Verizon, like the other cable companies, pretty much operates from a pro forma license. They take a license in one community and they change the name and the dates and the numbers, and it's the same one you get that they get to all communities. So a lot of the terms in here are what I call boilerplate terms or pro forma terms, and they're similar to licenses that other communities have. And if we wanted to try and negotiate changes to some of these, it's really very difficult with Verizon. Verizon's in the unique position of being not a cable company, but a communications company, because they were originally here with telephone lines, so they're grandfathered in. And what that means is that cable, it's conventional wisdom, I think, that most people now believe that the cable companies really would much rather just be selling internet and not cable. Internet isn't regulated. They don't have to pay PEG fees. They don't have to have a license. So they'd much rather be delivering their product by internet than cable, but they're here with cable licenses now. Cable licenses do make money for them. So they've got these cable licenses, but they'd rather be doing it by internet. Our power and our leverage over a cable company is to be able to say no to a license. And there are limited legal reasons for being able to do that. But in the case of a real cable company, if we said no to them, and a real cable company is Comcast, if we said no and their license was terminated, they would have to take all their wires down, surrender their poll permits, pack their bags, and leave town. They can't continue to sell either telephone or internet services if they don't have a cable license, because they are a cable company under federal law. Verizon is not. Verizon is a communications company, so if we were to say no to their license, they really wouldn't care all that much. They could shut their cable down and continue to sell internet and telephone to residents in the community. And as a result of that anomaly of the law, Verizon has an edge on its competitors, and we have a lot less leverage with Verizon when we're negotiating for a renewal license. So Verizon has kind of changed the ground rules in the last 5 years or so. And as I go through, I'll point out to you some of the things that they have changed. And the fact is, really, we don't have a lot of leverage and we don't have a lot of negotiating room. What we really try to do in these negotiations is try to get as much money as we possibly can. But I'll go through the executive summary fairly quickly here. Item 1, gross revenues. We want to have that gross revenue definition include advertising revenues and home shopping revenues, which are optional. They don't have to include them, but we insist on putting them in, and they usually adhere to that because it gives us a little bit more money in the calculation of the 5%. The conventional wisdom is it's about an additional 0.5% more in revenues that you get if you include those in the definition, so that's there. Point 2, Verizon will no longer agree to a 10-year license term. 10 years is the longest term available in Massachusetts for a renewal license. You get a 15-year license when it's the first one. You get a 10-year license thereafter or less. It's not mandatory that it be 10 years, but I always recommend that we try and get the longest possible one so we get a constant, steady income stream for our PEG access production within the town. Verizon decided about 5 years ago they only want to go 5 years. So our license is a 5-year license. It commences the 27th of October 24 and will end on October 2029. Unilateral, that's one of the new terms that Verizon has imposed on us. Another one is unilateral termination, Section 2.4, and the Section 2.5 termination provision as well. Verizon, for reasons known only to themselves, have started to demand the right to unilaterally terminate a license 36 months after you sign it. To my knowledge, in Massachusetts, they have never exercised that right, and they've been in all the new Verizon licenses here for 5 years or so. So, and I've asked them, are you serious about, are you just going to up and leave us here? I mean, are you seriously contemplating suddenly just canceling all your cable licenses? And they always say, no, we really aren't. That's just a safety valve. That's just, somebody in the head office being nervous and wanting to cover all bases. We really do not have any intention of doing that. That's what they say. And so far, they haven't done it. It wouldn't make sense to me if they did, because after all, they do make money with these licenses. So in any event, if they want to terminate, they have to give us what amounts to 3 years of this license, and they have to give us 6 months notice, 180 days notice before doing so. The service area, 3.1 and 3.2.5, same as the current license. They will serve the entire section of town with certain exceptions of incidences, occurrences, or events that are beyond their control, such as labor issues, supply chain issues, inability to connect technically with certain types of equipment, or trying to enter into a neighborhood if a community has one where there's an agreement to have service from another provider, all those sorts of things. That's what's in section 3.1 and 3.2. The standard provision for density is 30 and 60, 30 homes aerial, 60 homes underground per mile, and 200 feet setback, a 200-foot setback. Those are standard to Verizon licenses now. So they are obligated to provide cable service within the community to those density and setback requirements. And they're, as I say, they're the same ones that's currently governed in the current license. Section 7.7, we're looking here at PEG access support. We continue to get 3 PEG channels from Verizon. Now here is something unusual. Here is where Verizon does one up on its competitors and gives us a substantially better deal than we will get from Comcast or you would get from anyone else. Verizon will give us sub B under that section is the HD channel. Verizon will give us an HD channel within 270 days upon written request. Comcast, it takes 2 years, and with Comcast, you have to pay about $30,000 or $40,000 for connection equipment. We don't have to pay a penny to Verizon for connection equipment. They'll just give us the channel. And the other thing about Verizon is they'll let us keep 4 channels, and with Comcast, you have to trade in one of your SD channels and get an HD channel, so you still end up with only 3 PEG channels. Verizon, you'll get 4 if that request is made. So there's an example of something where Verizon really is better than the competition. Section C and D is the PEG grants, that is the funding grants. The capital grant, as I said, is $120,000 in 3 payments of $40,000 within the first 2 years. It's done that way because when Verizon started saying we want to have the right to unilaterally terminate after 3 years, I and a couple of the other lawyers who were negotiating with Verizon said, okay, we'll agree to that only if you agree to pay up all the money you owe us before you leave. And they agreed that they would do so. So they're paying the capital up front now within 2 years, or in some cases 3 years in their licenses. And in our case, we'll get $120,000 by the 2nd anniversary of the signing of the license. In other words, October 27, 2026. The operating grant in sub D down there is 5% of the gross revenues, and that's the same as in the current license. License fee, section part 8 is a state law. You get 50 cents per subscriber. That money can be spent for any purpose. It is not restricted to cable-related purposes, which the prior to the capital and the PEG operating grant are so restricted. Section 9.1, 9.2 are 7.1, compliance with FCC and state customer service standards. I always put these in the license because they, oddly enough, even though, well, if they're still obligated to comply with these standards, but if it's not in the license and they don't do it, then it's not a license violation. And we want to have some enforcement power over them or some leverage over them if they're not complying with state and federal standards. The FCC customer service standards talk about, for example, Section 309C has a requirement that they have to answer the telephone for a customer service call within 30 seconds, 90% of the time, if it is under ordinary circumstances. So, and they keep it, they have computerized tracking of these calls, and they can tell you, yes, we did that, we did make 90%, we answered calls within 30 seconds, 92% of the time, or something like that, or in some cases, less than 90%. So they do keep track of that, and the regulation does, I think, work fairly well at keeping cable companies responsive. If there are complaints from citizens at some point in the future that they're being put on hold for long periods of time, then it would be incumbent upon the the Communications Advisory Committee to perhaps conduct a public hearing and ask Verizon to produce their computerized records for telephone response time. I mean, that's how this works. So that's something that the Communications Advisory Committee might want to keep in mind. I like to say that their job doesn't necessarily end when the license is signed. They also have some role, possibly, in enforcing the license in the future. Going on to 9.1 insurance, here again, this is better than what the other cable companies do. Verizon provides $6 million and $6 million for CGL and Umbrella, $6 million for automobile liability, and then the comp insurance, $100,000. That's the state statutory, $100,000, $5,000 state statutory limit. Their insurance is more than what you get from Comcast. You get Comcast gives you $1 million and $5 million instead of $6 and $6. Indemnification, Section 9.2. I always end up negotiating this, and the reason is that the cable companies like to put in that if the town gets sued for something the cable company did, so for example, if their truck hits a bus of school kids and injures a whole bunch of people, the cable company gets sued and the town gets sued too, of course, because it's our license. But we had nothing to do with it. So we would, and we get sued, we would what they call tender our defense to Verizon. We would send a letter to Verizon saying, here, you owe us a defense and indemnity. You defend us, you pay legal fees, and you pay us any indemnification if there's judgment against us. What the cable companies like to do was they like to say, yeah, we'll do that if you give us notice within 10 days of being sued. And of course, a lot of times 10 days notice is just not enough for busy town clerks. So I have ensured in here that the standard for tendering defense is the same standard that applies at law, and that is they're obligated to take our defense when we give it to them, unless we were so slow in giving it to them that a judgment entered against us and can't be removed. So that's the standard that's in there now, and that's the strongest possible protection we could get from the town in that. Scrolling on down, the performance bond, $50,000 bond from Verizon. A lot of Comcast bonds are $25,000. In my opinion, 25, 35, 50, more than adequate for what we can expect after construction has been completed, which it is in this case. Enforcement. Verizon, one of the things Verizon will not give us anymore is liquidated damages. Liquidated damages are penalties for violations of sections of the license after notice and opportunity to cure. So, for example, if we determined that Verizon wasn't building out into a neighborhood that had 30 homes per mile, we would conduct a public hearing and give them notice and make a finding that they're in violation of Section 3.1 of the license, whatever it might be, and they have 30 days to correct it. If there were liquidated damages, we could assess a penalty of $100 a day or whatever the license provides, and you do find those in other licenses. Verizon, however, has now, in the past 5 years, refused to put liquidated damages into their license. So we are without that enforcement power. We can enforce by either bringing one of several types of lawsuits, filing a complaint with the Department of Telecommunications and Cable, or making a claim if it under the $50,000 performance bond, if it's one of the terms that's covered by that bond. So that concludes my presentation to you. As was said at the outset, this is the best license we can get from Verizon, and it's that in part is determined by timing over which we have had no control. And the timing, as I said at the beginning, was that the Verizon license is up first and Comcast license is up sometime in 2025. I think it's summer of 2025. In any event, under the circumstances, your committee and I have worked very hard to get this license in place, to get it where it is. And I very much enjoyed working with them. They've been very professional, and I have no hesitation in recommending this license for your execution. And I'd be happy to take any questions you might wish to ask.
Great, thank you so much, appreciate that. Do we have any questions from the select board?
I don't have questions. I have
Sure.
2 small comments on the draft
right.
we've been given. It's on at the top of page 24, when you have issues of notice, you have with a copy to Westford Town Council, Copeland and Page. I think you're now KP Law, Bill, so you might want to change that.
You're right, we are. Thank you. What page again was that?
It's at the top of page 24.
24? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Well,
And I have one more, which is our signature page.
Yeah.
yes.
So Scott Hazelton is now chair. Tom Clay is vice chair. Chris Barrett is clerk. And that leaves John and I.
I'm sorry. So Tom Clare is the chair.
No, Tom Clay is vice chair.
Vice chair. Okay.
Scott Hazelton is chair.
Okay.
Chris Barrett is clerk.
Okay. We got them all wrong. Except for John. All right. My apologies. I will get to you a clean draft for your signature with those 2 changes.
Okay.
And if you vote to sign it, you can just pass it around and sign it as soon as possible. Come into the office and sign it as soon as possible. And then when everyone's signed it, you should scan the page and send it to me and or John Harrington. Again, my apologies for the name mix-up and my own name mix-up, my own firm name mix-up, but and thank you for pointing those out.
I assume that electronic signature is okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, we can do that. We
That's
have your
great.
signature on file.
Thank you. Is there any
Thank
other-
you all for your really hard work. Really,
Oh, it was very exciting.
I'm sure it was, but I'm sure it was quite a slog too. So
Yeah,
thank you.
and we're starting now on Comcast, which is going to be interesting to see.
Okay.
But I'm interested that they're supposed to pick up the phone within 30 seconds, because while they pick up the phone within 30 seconds, they immediately put you on hold.
Yeah.
So,
They're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be a live person.
Oh, I don't.
oh, I don't know about that.
Well, let me put it this way: it's supposed to be somebody who's going to, who's going to speak and be able to answer questions. And I think they get 1 referral. If it's a question they can't answer, I think they get 1 referral to somebody else. But yes, that's an interesting requirement, isn't it? I mean, it seems completely contrary to most of our experience, but that's the requirement, and it's in there. It's in the current one too. So
That's good.
yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need to close your meeting down, or?
Yeah, I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
And you'll need a
Make that
motion to
motion.
accept
Is there a second?
Acceptable.
All in favor?
the proposal and sign them.
Say aye.
Aye.
And thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. All right, so anybody like to
welcome.
make
Good
a
evening.
motion on this contract?
I'll move that we accept the contract with
Second.
Verizon as presented here tonight.
Do we have to say as amended, or is as presented covers that? Okay, and we have a second, I think, from Tom. All right, any debate on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Andrea?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Bye.
And I'm also an aye. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill.
Bye, Bill. All right, we're on to our 8:05 agenda item, which is board reports and updates. Do we have any updates for boards? I guess I'll just add one more time. I mentioned this at our last meeting. The Park and Rec Commission is asking for public input regarding the possibility of instituting beach pass fees for residents. So we have a meeting on November 4th. It is virtual, so you can sign up at westfordma.gov/beach passes. So hopefully we'll see lots of residents and get some good feedback.
We got that communication out today. It's our standard communication, nothing fancy.
Perfect. Thank you so
Put it out
much.
there.
That's all we need. Nothing fancy. All right. Our 8:30 agenda item is correspondence. Do we have a motion to waive the reading of? Do I have a second? All right. Andrea?
Yes.
Don? Tom?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. So we'll waive reading of correspondence.
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We don't have to pull.
All right. All in favor for adjournment?
Aye.
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 All right.